Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. We're here back with week 5 of our weekly market update. As you can tell, we're in cottage country this week with some family and some friends, and you may hear some people in the background. Hopefully nothing bad. Hopefully you guys will be able to get into some nature before the end of the summer. Hopefully you can enjoy that. But we were just going to touch base on some news that we got from the inflation yesterday, and we'll talk a little bit about the unemployment, and then we'll just get into the downtown Don Mills and Yonge Eglinton Leaside Davisville area. First, we did do a video yesterday, but then I was just reading some news, and we got some more news for the inflation for July numbers. So it is a total different kind of outcome from what I was saying yesterday to what I'll be saying today, and unfortunately it's not the most positive, because we saw that in June inflation numbers were down to 2.8, which is showing some good signs that if that continued, then we may get a pause from the Bank of Canada on the interest rates. But we did just get news that July's inflation numbers were 3.3, so that is up, as I said, from 2.8. And so with that, I do believe that we may see another hike in September, hopefully the last, because as we've been saying, like, it really is hurting a lot of people, because it may not go up that much, but it's about how much it's gone up over the time, and that is just compounding and then just pushing people further and further away. There are some people that can handle it, that are in just different areas of their life, and lucky and fortunate enough to have built their equity up to not feel as much pain. But on the other side, there's a lot of people that are feeling a decent amount of pain, and not just within the mortgages, but gas prices, grocery prices, etc., as you know, and I'm sure you're feeling. So that is kind of some news that we want to take into consideration, because we will see what Bank of Canada will do when it comes. I think September is the next announcement. So we'll keep an eye on that, and to see what things are going. But it is a good sign for unemployment. Unemployment is going up, and that is what Bank of Canada wants, right? They do really need to force things to be more expensive, essentially, so that we can get to a point where the inflation does continue to come down, instead of giving us a little bit of hope and then going back up again. So I think with that, they're going to just maybe hopefully do one more, and then just kind of nail that one in there, and hopefully that the pain, unfortunately, that we will feel will trickle into what we will hope as some pausing of the interest rates down the road, and then hopefully to bring them down early next year. So again, with that, unemployment rate, those are things that we want to keep an eye on too. I do think that over time, again, once things do get better, then there will be some more hiring, because I think some people are just getting rid of some people just to pad their books at the end of the day before the end of the year, so that they can have a good end of the last quarter. So we'll keep an eye on that and keep you posted for what Bank of Canada is going to do on the next announcement. So we'll get to our weekly updates and talk about the downtown surrounding areas first, the freehold areas. So everything's pretty flat, and we're seeing active listings up just a little bit. Sold firms are down a bit, so we are starting to see what was common and what usually happens in this time of the year. And then obviously with this kind of news for inflation and rates hike a few weeks ago, they just don't help, obviously. But then we're going to look at the condos from downtown areas. So everything's pretty flat there too. Active listings is up a bit, sold down a bit, so same kind of thing there. But it is interesting to see that condos are overall like holding on strong, because you do have those people that are downsizing too, so they are not feeling the pain from these interest rate hikes or pretty much any of the news. Their savings accounts are actually better, and then if they sell their $1 million place, then they can afford the $800,000 condo, right? But it's interesting to see that there are actually almost 150 terminated condo listings in the downtown area. So that's another sign of just some people that are just not able to sell it if they still have it tenanted. Sometimes it is really hard to sell a place when it's tenanted, just because they need to get rid of it. But if they're not able to get something that they see fit for their costs and how long they've held it, then they'll maybe take it off, and maybe in the fall time we'll see some more action there on the buy side, because I do think buyers are just kind of taking their time doing this kind of stuff, right? Let's talk about the Don Mills area freehold. There's actually no sold firm listings, so it's interesting there. But obviously, active listings has picked up, days on market have picked up, months of inventory have picked up. Nothing too dramatic, but it was interesting to see that there's no sales. So we'll see in the next week if that changes a little bit. I do think there'll be some sales, but again, this is just a slower time just in general. Condos are pretty flat. Active listings picked up. There was actually more sold firm listings last week than the week before, and everything's just up a bit. And we're seeing that across the board. And then Leaside, Davisville, Mount Pleasant, Yonge Eglinton area, we're seeing this is a little bit interesting, but this is kind of like an outlier, because we did have active listings go down, but the months of inventory and actually the days on market went from 7 days to 98 days. So there is this one property or two, but one most likely that was on the market for a really, really long time and finally got sold. It seemed like it was a higher priced home, so not as many people can afford it. Probably a very unique home and just needed that unique buyer. So those are the kind of ones that kind of throw things off a little bit when we do these weekly numbers. So I wouldn't pay attention to that too much, because next week it's going to be totally different, I believe. So we'll talk about the condos in those areas. Things have slightly picked up on active listings. There's actually more sales. So interesting, and prices up from 630 to 730. So it's interesting to see that, because this is a little bit more of an area and price range for first-time buyers. So it's kind of interesting to see that there are potentially some people that are still, able to afford, because at the end of the day, you should really be just being able to purchase what you can afford. And usually it's not what you want, but it's what you can afford. So those are things you got to think about. And we're seeing pretty flat overall, and I think it'll start to, well, not start, but continue to slow down for August, especially with the inflation news. And then there may be some news where they are talking about bringing the interest rates up, so that's just going to snowball into a negative way that we don't want, but at the same time we may need, because we do need a slowdown. But at the same time, it's just making it harder and harder for a lot of people to get into the market and to afford what they currently have. But yeah, so really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch and listen to some of my insight. If you do have any questions or concerns about different home types and or areas, please don't hesitate to reach out. And again, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.